So I want to talk about another great gimbal for GoPro action cameras. The gimbal I'm going to talk about is the Hohem iSteady Pro 4. Now the iSteady Pro 4 has been out for a little while, and this replaced the iSteady 3. The gimbal doesn't look a lot different, but there are a few different features on here, so let's take a look. First thing I love about this gimbal is the case that it comes in. It's got a nice thin carrying case here. And when you open it up, this is what you see inside. So we've got the tripod mount here that we put on the bottom. And we've got our couple cables in here that you can use to hook to your action camera for charging it. We've got the USB to USB-C cable for charging the actual gimbal that you can plug into your computer or a wall outlet. So the biggest difference with the iSteady Pro 4 is how you mount the camera on it. So it's got this new system where you push out on this orangish red clamp and you lift up. Then you put your camera in here. You get it attached just like that right there. Then we power on our gimbal. The biggest feature that I like about the Hohem iSteady 4 is you don't have to mess with it to do all of this balancing with it. It basically self-balances. You connect the camera, you turn it on, and it's good to go. I've featured some other gimbals where you do have to do a lot of adjusting and tweaking to get them balanced and get them just right. Once you get them balanced, sure, it works great, but it can take a little bit of effort. On here, you hook it on, it's pretty much good to go. This does, of course, have the typical modes on here where you can toggle between them. It's got the point of view mode, it's got the lock mode, it's got the PF, the PTF. You can rotate it like this. You can move it side to side. You can look up, you can look down. Tap this twice to get it back into alignment. So an important thing to note about this is you can wirelessly control your GoPro, but GoPros are the only cameras you can wirelessly control on here. So you can put the DJI Osmo Action on here, you can put the Insta360 One RS. You can use a lot of action cameras with it because this will support the weight load of those. But you cannot wirelessly control those cameras. The only ones you can wirelessly pair with this are the GoPros. Now, as far as the stability and stabilization on this, I really like it. It's on par or better than some of the other gimbals for the GoPro. So the biggest downside for me with this gimbal is you cannot use the media mount with the GoPro. So I'm going to put the 10 in the media mount here and show you what I mean. As you can see, it's way too big. It doesn't fit tight back into this bracket, and this connector right here cannot even begin to fit over the media mount. So that, for me, is the biggest downside about the Hohem iSteady Pro 4. Otherwise, I love this gimbal. So let me put it this way. If I'm going to be using my GoPro without the media mod, this is my first choice of gimbal for the GoPro. I love it for that purpose because it's easy. You pop it on here, you click it into place near the center, you power it on, it's good to go. If I need to use my media mod, then this of course is not my first choice for a gimbal because I cannot use the GoPro with the media mod with this. There's a competing brand of gimbal that I would go to first if I want to use my media mod. So if that helps with the decision-making process on the GoPros, I recommend this one if you're not going to use the media mod on a gimbal. But if you are going to use a media mod, I do not recommend this one because it will not work for you. Some other features I like about this is it has the built-in battery. So like I said earlier, you can connect to the GoPro and you can power the GoPro and charge it while it's running on here. So Hohem says the battery lasts 14 hours in here. It's not going to last 14 hours if you have your GoPro plugged in. But if you don't have your GoPro plugged in, that is pretty reasonable. If you have the GoPro plugged in and running on this, I would say expect more like 4 or 5 hours out of this. You're not going to get anywhere close to the 14 hours when you're also powering your GoPro. And Hohem does also have an app that you can use to control this, to update the firmware, and to tweak a lot of custom settings, so I do recommend installing that app. And when you pick one of these up, I do recommend making sure you check the firmware and updating the firmware first on it before you use it. Firmware is a great way to ensure this is going to work as best as possible for you, and it's going to help make sure there's no bugs there that interfere with you using it properly. So I'd like to show you some sample footage that I filmed with this so you can check it out. The footage looks really good. It's really smooth and stable, and I love it. In fact, some of this footage I featured in my recent ND filter video, because when I'm using ND filters, I need a gimbal, because I need the stabilization turned off, because Hypersmooth does not work with those lower shutter speeds. If you want to learn more about ND filters, I've linked to that video above. But I'm going to show you a few minutes of sample footage so you can see just how good this does. And if you're interested in checking it out, I've linked to it in the description below.